Hi, my name's James Earls, and I'm really grateful to Celina for the invitation to join you on this venture through the repertoire and to introduce you to some of the ideas and concepts behind anatomy. Now, I know that sometimes can sound a little bit dry, a little bit scary, but we're going to make it as comfortable and as interesting as possible. We're going to learn a lot of the things that I've found useful over the last 30 years of my practice. I cringe, I'm getting old. And many of the things that I wish that I had have been taught 30 years ago. It took me 23, 24 years before I really felt that I was getting a better picture of anatomy. So I'm going to try and shortcut that process for you as much as possible, give you as many of the tools as we can. As you can see, I'm in my office surrounded by different books and models and things. My background was in bodywork. I first trained in aromatherapy back in the early 90s, back in Belfast in Ireland. And I trained with Tom Myers between 2000 and 2001. And then I did a functional movement training with Gary Gray. So I have a little bit of movement training. I'm married to a Pilates instructor. I take Pilates lessons, not as frequently as I would like. And so I have some background in movement, some appreciation, a lot of appreciation for Pilates, some understanding of anatomy, and a lot of understanding and appreciation for frustrations around anatomy, which I think might be a good title for this for this series. But we're going to make it as hopefully unfrustrating for you as we can. And so I'm really looking forward to the upcoming sessions. And please, anytime that you have a question, please just let me know. Intro to get us going and to let me introduce myself. So one of the problems with anatomy is many people just suffer through it. It's difficult. There's a different language, and so you may be thinking, why do we have to suffer through even more anatomy? Perhaps you've been exposed to it before. Maybe you've tried to learn it from books. Maybe you've tried to watch a few videos online or something. And generally, I think it is usually badly taught. It's usually taught out of context, and that makes it difficult to grasp, to own, to be able to apply, to really appreciate how it can enrich and deepen our practice. There are many reasons, I think, why we should take a little bit of time to learn anatomy. One is it just makes it easier to talk to other practitioners, other maybe doctors, and particularly with clients. And it's not necessarily that we're going to talk anatomy at them, but it gives me a way of being able to maybe give it a little bit more education to them, and certainly to be empowered to answer some of their questions, because many clients nowadays have like us, have spent some time online, have been maybe researching some of the conditions that they might have, or they've been to a physiotherapist and been told that they have to strengthen their glutes, and they want to know what the glutes are, or the hamstrings, or the quadriceps, the navicular bone. So I think it is important for us to have a little bit of kind of credibility to be able to explain some of those points to them. And I think it has many secondary benefits as well, because it can improve the way in which we see movement, to have an empowered language for it. And that's a process. It's not going to come overnight. It's something that we have to kind of grow into, something that we have to practice. And hopefully over the series of videos, we'll give you tools to be able to do that are not scary, that are empowering, that are accessible, achievable, able to practice every day, just every so often, just whenever looking at a client move. Maybe if you share a studio with somebody else, just kind of taking time out and trying to understand what's going on with an exercise, or sometimes during your own practice, just kind of tuning in and saying, which muscles, which tissues, or which joints are working, being engaged, or moving during this exercise. And that gradually helps to build up the vision and expand that kind of street cred, that ability to be able to just chat, know your stuff, to be able to hold your ground and have a conversation without necessarily claiming all expertise and knowing everything that there is to know about anatomy, but certainly being able to know enough to explain in simple terms what's going on with our clients. And all of that is with the aim to have a deeper appreciation of what Joseph and many of his disciples intend to achieve through the repertoire of the exercises. It allows us to just deepen our practice, go that little bit further, a little bit more inside, and be able to see the application, that it's not just about the exercise. There are applications to improve our clients' normal everyday function. And to me, that's my bias. That's where I come from. It's a little bit of the kind of a functional appreciation. Our aim is to build up a vocabulary that allows us to see, understand complex movement. I know this is not part of the repertoire. This is just a video I chose from my library, but there are many things that are going on in here that are difficult to maybe describe from a traditional anatomical vocabulary, but there are tools that we'll be using that will allow us to take that a little bit further. I think that's with an appreciation of one of my favorite quotes from a physicist, Richard Feynman. So often anatomy is just about naming. We name that bone, we name that muscle, we name the ligament, we name the joint, we name the whatever. And in all of his wisdom, he said, we can name a bird in many different languages. We can know the different nicknames for each bird, but knowing the name doesn't actually give us any kind of appreciation. It is not until we go to that deeper level that actually things start getting really interesting, and it is difficult to break into that next level where things do start getting interesting. Whenever I really understand something, then I can apply it in different ways, at different times, hopefully for the right person at the right time. And so my knowledge becomes wider and much more usable. Otherwise, I'm just repeating the same patterns, the same movements, the same exercise because it's in the book. And I don't know about you, but that's not where my interest lies. I want to be able to own something, and by owning, I mean having the ability to adjust, being able to make that fine tweak that's going to just hopefully be that little bit more accurate, more effective for the client that's in front of me. One of the things that can be difficult with anatomy is that it's often presented as a simple naming sequence. If I can understand and learn, if I can learn all of the names of 640 muscles and 204 whatever bones and all of the joints in the body, somehow I will then understand. But it doesn't work like that. There are so many different interactions at different times and different eventualities that we have to cover, that it is much more like the appreciation of an ecosystem. So it's kind of like the weather. The anatomy of movement is a complex system. It's almost like a chaos system. And one of my favorite analogies is the butterfly flapping its wings in Tokyo and causing, if the conditions are right, or kind of probably if they're wrong, getting the tidal wave in San Francisco. But so that one little effect has a knock-on kind of sequence if all of the other factors are at the right balance. And it's kind of like, so this image of the ecosystems from Alexander Humboldt. And it's not, we've got the different layers of different kind of climates according to the altitude of the mountain. But the height is only one factor. The placement, so this is equatorial. This is a temporal zone, so Mont Blanc, might be familiar to some of you. And I'm not sure where this one is about. This is in South America, I think. So depends where you are relative to the equator, what height those climates will actually occur. So there's no way that we can just learn one factor. We have to appreciate longitude, latitude, we have to appreciate altitude, we have to appreciate the direction of the wind, we have to appreciate the soil type, which will be related to the underlying rocks, which will be related to the motion of the tectonic plates. There are so many things that if I want to understand biology, if I want to understand climate, I need to have an appreciation of all of those things, and anatomy is the same. I need to be able to appreciate each of the systems. So we will be talking about the skeletal system, the muscular system, the fascial system, much less so the digestive system and the endocrine system, but all of those will come into play because they'll all have an interrelationship in this kind of ongoing dynamic structure. So we will be building up our vocabulary. So I think that if we just look at movement, if we don't have words to describe it, it's kind of hard to understand. We'll be looking at a lot of examples, and many of my examples deliberately will be outside of Plate's repertoire, just so that we have a different input, but all of them are easily applied to Plate's. We're going to need to, what I consider breaking prejudices, because anatomy is presented in a certain way within texts that actually often get or create a roadblock for our understanding, and we'll see this as we work through. So we have to think a little differently, and we have to appreciate that complexity. We have to appreciate that there are not going to necessarily be straightforward black and white answers. It's difficult, and that's going to be sometimes a little uncomfortable because it can be difficult to grasp, and that's okay. Just if you're feeling that way, just sit with it, and like doing any kind of maybe puzzle or trying to untie a knot. If you feel that tension of confusion, frustration, then set it aside, go off, do something else, and revisit it. The issue, the problem, the vocabulary, the anatomy, whatever it may be, revisit it in 20 minutes, 30 minutes, the next day, the next week, whenever feels right, or come to the same area from a different angle, try and find a different resource. Sometimes it can be one area, but we in different anatomy books will have a slightly different angle. So just that change in angle or change in color or change in wording often just gives us that aha moment of, oh, I understand. That's easier to see. And all of this is, our aim is to make it this process as simple, as straightforward, as pain-free as possible. So I'm trying to minimize those moments of stress and anxiety, because I know many of us have bad memories of school, bad memories of bad teachers. So we're not here to scare or to impose upon you, but to be a resource as much as you need us. And these presentations are going to be kind of tools that I've found useful over my development. One of the prejudices that I have, I will own up to, is my frustration over learning anatomy from social media, and we get through all of these different buzzwords and trends. We've talked about stability and core strength. We've talked about isolation, and we've had the trend of fascia, and along with fascia is my world of body work. As soon as we had fascia, we had to be releasing it, and then we started getting into tensegrity, and now over the last 5 or 6 years, everything is functional. And the reality is I need to appreciate all of those words. Sometimes we get the idea that it's all about the core, and thankfully that idea is maybe a little old now. It's all about stability, it's all about isolation, it's all about release, it's all about fascia, it's all about function. It's not all about any one of those things. I need to be able to, I need to be able to appreciate what is the implication, what's the use behind each of those ideas. How can I apply that appropriately to my client at the right time? So we're going to be appreciating, but also being sometimes frustrated by those buzzwords. As soon as, and as a general rule, as soon as one hears that the cure to all evils or all conditions is whatever super myofascial tensegrity, core stability, release, that's the time to run away, to just click somewhere else, delete. A little bit of my background. I trained in bodywork, in manual therapy and aromatherapy back in the early 90s. And then I trained with Thomas Myers in structural integration, anatomy trains, and I taught anatomy trains for many years. And until I came across this guy called Gary Gray, so-called father of function, and one of his favorite quotes and principles, he would consider it, is to always come back to the truth of movement. And I really like that approach. I did my functional movement training with him, so a lot of the ideas that we'll discover are kind of a blending between my myofascial bodywork understanding, my appreciation of evolutionary and comparative anatomy, and the functional anatomy that I learnt with Gary Gray. And this idea of coming back to the truth of movement, I think it's able to bring us to that better appreciation of anatomy. Because I think at the moment there's a lot of debate over is Pilates functional, is battle ropes functional, is my approach is more functional. There's a lot of judgment around what is functional. And to me, I think any exercise, any movement can be functional if I understand how it improves my client's ability to function more comfortably, better, with more strength, with more grace, with more fluidity, whatever quality that it is that seems to be missing. But in that so to me, any movement can be functional. The thing that makes it functional is my understanding of the application of that exercise in order to allow you to improve your function in the real world. And I think this is, for me, an excitement for the repertoire, because if I really understand functional anatomy and how people really move, and really, if I really can grasp anatomy, then every movement, every exercise, every element of the repertoire becomes functional. I can apply it, understanding how this client is going to improve their life. So that's where we're going. That's where we're aiming towards, is to be able to gradually build this large picture that's going to deepen our understanding. So I hope that you'll find these videos useful. I know that we'll have some live sessions, and I've also offered, anytime that you have questions and comments, anything that you want to hear again in a different way, If there is any way in which I can assist in this process for you, then please just contact me, contact Celina. We'll have live sessions. So I'm really looking forward to this future journey with you. So thanks very much.